All right, folks, welcome to the show. We got a good one for you. No Rob here today, but we do have Eric Haynes sitting in chair number 2. We're going to talk about really whatever I want to talk about, whatever Eric wants to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about today because I got to be honest with you, folks. All of the terrible things that we've seen, all of the violence in Australia or at Brown University or even like we talked about last week with the infighting with conservatives and just all of the stuff. Now people are very upset because because Donald Trump responded in a way that they didn't like about the death of Hollywood director Rob Reiner. All of this stuff, it feels like trauma-based mind control, that we're just addicted to negative news. And while that's unavoidable in many regards, it's Christmas. It's Christmas. It's 10 days until Christmas. And this weekend, as I was watching all of this unfold, I've had enough. I want to talk about positive things. I want to talk about the first advent of Christ coming into a hopeless world and giving people light. That's what this season's about. And it just seems even on the right, even among conservative folks, everything right now, because that's what the news is all about death. It's all about war. And I don't know, just me personally, you can call me weak or if you want to, but I've had enough, at least for this season, and I'm ready to talk about things that we can actually rejoice in and things we can actually control. And so we're going to talk about that today, and I'm sure some news items. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. Had a good weekend. Hope you had a good weekend. What about you, Eric?
I had a fantastic weekend. Great intro there. Parked me in my living room with my 4 young children and Kevin McAllister and the Grinch and the old Santa Claus with Patch and the Vendigums, and I'm a happy guy these days.
Yep.
So anyway, thanks so much. This is it's
No.
good to be part of the conversation
Yes,
today.
I'm glad that you're with us, Eric. Rob couldn't make it last minute. What you just said about being at home with your family, I think is something very profound. I was actually talking with a friend yesterday, and we were having these conversations about how it's so difficult to get to the truth when you're a news hound. When you're trying to decipher what's going on, whether it's the attacks, the people that were murdered in Australia, what's going on in Brown University, what's going on with even the left-right paradigm in this country. Like what does that even mean? Is everything fake? Is everything controlled? And these are things that a lot of just average Republican voters are asking themselves right now, right? You've seen us do it on the show. I think one of the ones you weren't here, where we were talking about, why haven't there been arrests? And I have some new thoughts on that, by the way, for another show. But it's just getting more and more difficult to really believe that we can get to the truth when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And I think this kind of goes with my neo-Amish claims of this. There's going to be, as AI starts to really take over, there's going to be people that want real connection. They want to know that the person they're interacting with is real, has a soul. And there's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than that, and actually being in a room with somebody. That's why I love this format so much better, by the way, is because you're here, Eric, like in the room with us, and we'll do remote interviews when we have to, but I prefer not to. And this person, what I was talking to, actually said, we forget that in the garden, in Genesis, it was God that walked in the garden with Adam. He was there. This is how we were created. We were created to be relational and actually interact with one another and be in the same room, right? And I say that knowing that people are watching on the other side of the screen right now. But it really got us thinking, because we're talking about how you look out across the world, there's so much sin, there's so much death, there's so much, and you just think, what what's the point of all of this? And yet, when you are at home, or at least this is my case, this is my feeling, this is your feeling, this was this friend's feeling that I was talking to. When you're at home with your people, it's almost like all of that stuff goes away. All that stuff doesn't matter. You're actually able to control, control your environment. You're there with your family, and it's so much better than having to worry about all this other stuff. Now, that doesn't mean we stick our head in the sand, but you know what I mean? You see what you get what I'm saying?
100%. I was literally about to say the words, it's not that I'm sticking my head in the sand, but it is such a blessing to spend time with the people I love most. Over this weekend, we had a basketball tournament the kids played in Greene County. We're spending time together. Church service was great on Sunday. We spent time. We got to sit around the dinner table together for lunch and dinner last night, and it was just so refreshing to enjoy this season and this time of year. And I don't mean just this time of year, but particularly this time of year where I'm trying to teach my children to be gracious and thankful and appreciative. I'm trying to incorporate so much of the story of Jesus into our conversation. This isn't just about Santa Claus, although we love Santa, but we also have a whole lot more to celebrate and a whole lot more to be thankful for than just the big guys bringing presents. And so I really, me as a kind of perpetual optimist as it relates to things, yes. Anyway. But all this stuff's going on. My news feed's blowing up, and things are popping up on the screens, obviously. But you just got to disconnect and push pause on that stuff and enjoy those moments, because I've got 4 kids under the age of 12 in my home that I love dearly and want to raise them to be the best citizens they can possibly be, and we have to have that time together to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And this weekend reminded me of how thankful I am for that.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of the focus of the show today is just it's almost like a protest. I'm like
sure.
I'm
let's
protesting
call it that.
all of this negativity, and I get that bad things happen. But it's something interesting. Yeah. Before the internet, when there were only just newspapers, we wouldn't have heard instantly. We wouldn't have heard what happened in Australia. It would be months. Right. Or maybe a few days, and it certainly wouldn't get the coverage that it'd be a blurb in an article somewhere in some newspaper or whatever. And I think that weighs on us, this constant it's this constant feed, literally feed, and there's dopamine receptors involved, I think, where people are like, I certainly am guilty of it, the constant doom scrolling and everything else. But I just was struck this weekend with just how negative it was, how grotesque it was. And yet here we are 10 days before Christmas, and nobody's really talking about that. They're not talking about, what's funny is we're getting closer and closer to not being able to ascertain exactly what the truth of a situation is every single day. There's all the skeptics, was this a false flag? Was that a false flag? And so it's refreshing to me, because I just think, well, what do I know that is true? What do I know that is true? Well, I know that Jesus Christ was born of a woman, of Mary, some 2,000 years ago. I know that happened for a fact, right? I also know that Scripture is true. Matter of fact, the sermon that I heard on this past yesterday, was out of the book of Psalm 97, which says, "The Lord reigns, let the earth rejoice. So, let the many coastlands be glad. Clouds and thick darkness are all around him. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. Fire goes before him and burns up his adversaries all around." Like, that's true right now. It was true then when it was written, and it's true right now. It's never not been a thing that the Lord reigns over all this. And getting back to what happens in our own homes, where we can actually control a lot more than we can control about what happened at Brown University or what happened, in Sydney, Australia. The Lord is so gracious to us. to give us those respites, to give us those places where we can go and actually, it's kind of like, I mean, I know this is not the earth restored yet. I know this is not like it was in the Garden of Eden, but boy, is it sweet. Boy, is it good that we are being dealt with much more graciously than we deserve when it comes to this type of stuff. And maybe you're watching this episode and you're like, well, what are you talking about? But this is me, again, protesting just how terrible the headlines are, and I'm just sick of it. I am sick of so much negativity. So I guess, Eric Haynes, your stubborn optimism has somehow infected me, I guess. That's the only thing I can think of.
So I saw a good quote the other day, and I had to write it down because it just jumped off the page at me, and it said, "It's not that our theology as Christians has become political. It's that politics has become theological." And that really set with me because so many of the things bleed in from politics and from people's philosophies on things that they become their doctrine and their religion and their theology. And it doesn't have to be that way, because you go down a certain road of that where your politics is theological, you eventually start to judge people, and you put people into a path to where you can't even communicate with them anymore, and you sever relationships that you should have never severed, and you cut people off that you should never have done, and families break up because of it, and people dehumanize others because they think that their politics somehow become the almighty. And it's
that is theological. Where do the two meet, though? Because to your point, I do think because the country is more starkly divided. Yeah, you really can't. I mean, there is now a theological component when we can say, okay, the people that support these terrible things that the left supports that I think are evil, like, just like abominations, that those people are all at the same place theologically. Many of them don't believe in God, right? Yeah. Versus the other side that tends to start there as the bedrock of how they try to establish truth claims. They understand, hey, there is a creator, right? So, I mean, to your point, I don't think we should unnecessarily cut people off, and certainly that's happened. But politics, you shouldn't talk about religion and politics. That's what they say, right?
Yeah, right.
I think if you talk about politics, we're to the point now that you almost have to talk about religion.
Yeah.
As well. You don't have to talk about politics if you're talking religion, but if you're talking politics, how is there not theological claims now?
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. I'm always trying to teach my kids how to find balance. And it's tough for young ones because they don't see the pendulum swings like I do. But that was just the way my folks always taught me and my younger brother, was just to try to find balance in your life and in all the different aspects of your life, because the pendulum swings back and forth based on the reactions and the consequences of certain people's actions and politics and whatever. And you need to be able to find a balance in your life for where your perspective is and stay objective to that, instead of following these extremes. That's what we live in, a world of extremes. And who has the biggest air horn on either side, and that can be very frustrating to follow, and it can be, and depending on where you get your information, like I always say, that's why I enjoy and love open, long conversations like this, because they're not tiny snippets with panels with everybody talking over each other to get out one tiny little sentence, and then we got to go to commercial break. Yeah, that's the mainstream news media today that everybody's inundated with, and they hate it, and they're sick of it, and they don't trust it. And I don't blame them one bit, because these conversations that we're able to have now allow us to think more objectively and try to find that balance that you and I were just talking about. And it is... it's difficult, and sometimes we have to be comfortable disagreeing with people that we love, and that's okay, and we have to be okay with that. What we saw this year and what we're seeing now is people unable to even humanize, or the dehumanization of people that they disagree with, and that can't take root in our society as a whole.
Yeah.
Otherwise, our entire culture will just completely crumble.
Well, it's funny because this kind of does bleed into a headline where, you do have the death of Rob Reiner, who is, I've seen people talk about how, look, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the left rejoiced.
Absolutely.
Right?
They did.
But when, Rob Reiner's gone, and there's a lot of people out there on the right that are just like, yeah, this is a terrible situation. He made a good movie or two. I disagreed with his politics, to your point. But then you have President Trump with his Truth Social that's, Trump is being exactly who Trump is, but there's people out there who are defending what he said. There's people out there who are vehemently disagreeing with what he said. Obviously, I wouldn't have written that. He basically said, Rob Reiner's throat was slit, I think, by his son. His son's been arrested, and his wife was murdered. And President Trump in his Truth Social post said that he died of Trump derangement syndrome, which is obviously not the case. So, it is in the news, Eric. What's your reaction to that? Sorry, but brother, I know we've talked off air. What's your reaction?
Well, Rob Reiner made a lot of great movies, a lot of iconic movies from my childhood that I remember. Rob Reiner was a part of, and it's sad. I feel bad laughing a while ago because I don't want to say that I don't take an opinion on this, because part of my opinion goes back to mental illness and the mental crisis in our country that obviously affected his son, and that his son has been public about, and that their family has been public about. It's sad that it got to that point. That's a horrible tragedy.
Right.
For anyone, all of his friends and others. I've seen a lot of very heartfelt posts from Stephen King and Ron Howard and a number of others in the Hollywood circles that knew him and loved him. And that's not. I take no solace in his death or anything like that.
Yeah.
At all, obviously.
Yeah, of course not.
But
best movie? What do you think? I got to throw it out there.
Probably argue Stand By Me was one of his best, or When Harry Met Sally. I know Billy Crystal and he were extremely close.
I'm going with Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah.
All day long.
Sorry about that.
That's got to be his best,
obvious,
right?
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, Princess Bride.
I know he had a really good relationship with Stephen King as well, and was instrumental in a number of his movies.
But the guy was a radical leftist. The guy made a movie attacking Christians. That was the last movie that I saw, some documentary where he got woke Russell Moore and woke David French. These are guys that are claimed to be Christians, trashing people. I can't remember what it was called, but it was just a movie trashing essentially Orthodox fundamental Christians, like people that believe what the Bible says and vote. You're Christian nationalists and you're a terrible person, and that was his latest movie. But yeah, so there's no question he was a radical leftist, but yeah, nobody's saying the guy deserved to be murdered.
Yeah, so. His death aside, it is quite clear where his stance has been for many, many years on the political side of things, as a very, very, very radical person of the left, or anti-Trump for sure.
Yeah. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to cover some of these stories, okay? But we are not done protesting, and we're going to get back to happy stuff.
Good. We got to talk about Patch and the Vendigums.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
The best Santa Claus movie.
Best Santa Claus movie, or what's your favorite Christmas movie? All of that stuff. We're going to circle back, but let's real quick talk about what happened in Sydney. Real quick, we're going to start here because I think this is obviously true. There's going to be people, obviously the Australian government is already saying we just need more gun control because they were legally allowed to own the guns. But William Wolf, who's the head of the Center for Baptist Leadership, writes, if you flood Western nations with third world Muslim migrants, you get jihad, rape, murder, and terrorist attacks, just like what happened in Australia. There are no exceptions to this rule. He also then threw shade at woke Christians said, and we're not going to play the video, but there's a lot of dead people. It says every single woke Christian that says we can't have borders or do mass deportations because of an out-of-context verse from the Old Testament about welcoming the stranger or a misinterpretation of the Good Samaritan needs to be forced to watch this.
Yeah.
This would be people like that Rob Ryder interviewed, Russell Moore and David French, that are leftists in their politics, and they want to be like, well, we're not one of those Christians, right? It's interesting though. This is true. And this is what you get. If you import the third world, this is what you're going to get. And we were talking off air that this should, in theory, just give the United States government even more motivation for Kristi Noem to not deport 100,000 people, but deport 20 million people, because we don't have to live like this. We don't have to live this way, and people are sick of it. People want the government to do the basic thing that a government does, and that's not import people that hate you and want to destroy you.
Yeah, it's a sobering reality for us to realize that the ship has sailed too, and that many, many years. And I'm not just saying just during the Biden administration, but we're talking a very long time of open borders and weak vetting policies and weak enforcement of our assimilation laws. Not that we have that many assimilation laws, but we should have managed that a lot better than we did. But that you're not going to put that genie back in the bottle, and we're going to continue to see problems like this. And I don't know to what degree, but at some point, we've talked about this before. You cross a tipping point. You reach a tipping point.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, and then. Was it President Trump that was saying that we were at a tipping point?
Literally 2 days later, starts talking about it in a speech. But I feel concerned for the future of Western countries that have so much of this, where hundreds of thousands of non-assimilating third world migrants are now here in their streets, and they want to unalive everyone else.
And the government officials are sympathetic towards them. And there's literally nothing.
Jews, yes, Jews in particular.
Right.
Obviously, with a lot of recent situations, but it's scary.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the government officials it doesn't really matter how many events happen like that one. The government officials are not going to be like, oh, we made a mistake allowing all of this immigration. They're absolutely refusing to. There's the only way. They're never going to change their mind. The only way they'd ever change their mind, or the only way you get a different outcome, is you have to have a completely new government.
Right.
And that's going to be difficult. Because of Smartmatic and things like that.
Yeah. The Australian government can't just say oops now. They've got to shift the narrative now that, well, this guy had 6 guns that he was licensed to have, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah. I have watched this video. This is a 10-minute clip of this one of these guys just firing, and he was apparently well-trained. He was a bolt action. I mean, he was very smooth with it. I watched this whole 10 minutes, and it took the police officers an incredibly long amount of time to actually take these guys down, because there's 2 of them. And I'm thinking the whole time, I mean, if this were me and I had that camera and I was in the United States of America, my 270 would have been poked out that window. This guy would have been down in seconds.
I watched this same video multiple times, and it's infuriating because that person is just sitting there recording. I'm not saying everybody has to be a sharpshooter with a rifle and have a house, gun safe full at the ready, but what I saw in a lot of videos too, and I don't mean to rush to judgment and make any negative summations about the law enforcement officers there, but it seemed like they were doing a lot more crowd control than going after and eliminating the threat.
Yep.
And I am no expert on that. I'm not in law enforcement. I've seen some trainings, but I just would have thought that they would have been able to get to them quicker. It's not like they were spraying Uzis.
I know.
And had a Gatling gun.
Well, some of the reports I saw where there were a lot of female cops that are just.
What I saw was just a lot of them
Kidnapped.
trying to get people out,
Yeah.
but not running to the
Running
problem
towards the
and
gunfire.
eliminating the threat.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sitting Monday morning quarterbacking the situation. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I didn't have bullets flying past my head, but there's certainly a great hero in this situation, which is the guy that tackled the father.
Mm-hmm. And he's confirmed. And
did he deserve? Does he deserve?
He was
his medal?
an immigrant as well, right?
Yeah, he's a street vendor.
Yeah. So some people are, that's a whole political debate now. Like, well, it's not all of them, but but you're guaranteed to have these type of problems when you import the third world. That's the point.
Yeah, everybody heard them yelling Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, yeah, it's ridiculous. Have you heard? I don't think I have. Do I have the female? I don't think I have the female cops. Yeah, there we
that
go.
Upper left is one of the
images. This was from the Right Angle News Network.
I saw this guy's post interview where he was just like, they just stood around doing nothing.
We have the interview. Let's just play it real quick right here.
Simple as that. 20 minutes was 4 policemen there. Nobody gave fire back. Nothing. Like they are froze. Like for it looked like 20 minutes. Like, and they shoot. The guy changed magazine. I look at him all the time. I was with 2 of my babies under me, and I look at that, and it's just rifle and a pistol, and just shoot. And the other one was under. They start to come close to the audience. I think one of the people took his rifle and shoot him. That's one of them. That's what I saw. I didn't know how much I saw, but
who were they targeting?
Oh, all the crowd.
So, yeah, he's basically saying, right, there was no action. And then you see they did have female cops, which I'm sorry, like I'm against women in combat. And this is
whether they were male or female, it looks like
Yeah.
a lot of cowering
Mm-hmm.
and hiding and staying out of the way versus, again, well trained. I mean, and they look like all the law enforcement officers that I saw looked like they'd been on the job for like a whole 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Australian government. You need to have.
But they've got less guns over there, right? They've been disarmed. I mean, I know
They did
you
that
can.
mandatory buyback years ago
Yeah.
where they like incinerated 800,000 guns. Wasn't that right?
I think so.
It was a
Which is
mandatory
why,
buyback.
That's why that guy filming for 10 minutes likely. Most people in Australia are not going to have a firearm unless you're that immigrant that jumped through the hoops to get one. So, it's just ridiculous. Have you heard the? This may sound like I'm piling on female cops. I know we don't have all of the 100% of the context here, but have you heard the theory that female police officers just on the day-to-day are like way more as a man, like if you were to get pulled over by a female cop, that your life is actually, some people think, is like more at risk because if there is any sort of confrontation, the a female officer is going to be more trigger happy because of the clear the clear physical difference between an average female cop and an average man behind the wheel. And there's a lot. If you look at the statistics, there is a lot to that. How it's dangerous.
No,
you think about
I
it.
do know some local female law enforcement officers here in this area, and
I'm sure they're great.
they're fantastic.
I'm sure they're great. But
Yeah.
there is this.
They're heroes in my book because they put up with a lot.
Well, there is this internet theory.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. That people have talked
Yeah.
about it. That statistically, it can be a lot. It can be actually more dangerous because of the.
Yeah.
The
I'm scared of the ones that I know. So
yeah,
they're fantastic.
Thinking about
fantastic
it, like I
people.
don't know if I've ever seen a small, like, petite police officer growing up. That's a woman. I've never seen that. But anyway, all right. So what else do we have? We have this. So is this another one here about? Is this the brand? No, this is still Australia. So there's just a lot of weird stuff. Again, the people in charge are the reason why your government is the way it is.
Yeah.
Again, at least 15 killed. So
Yeah, the son, I believe, was born there, and the father migrated there many, many years ago. I'm not sure of visa status or anything like that at all, but you just wonder how, because to the point of radicalization, we hear that a lot.
Yeah.
When and where did they become radicalized? That's a debate that's going on in different circles right now, and with this situation, I just wonder, is this just a dad that came over and was always that way, and for 24 years he raised a son to eventually be old enough to be his foot soldier in this? It's grotesque.
he had a lot of training,
to think
though.
about.
Again, he did have a lot. I mean, or at least he was well skilled with the gun because he was.
The son was on a watch list. They had sized him up for potential ISIS ties at some point, and there were Palestinian flags close by, and it's sick.
Yeah,
This
so
is-
then we
this
have
is tough.
and then what do you know about the Brown University thing that happened as well?
I think a new video just came out just within the last hour or so that's helpful, but the fact that
They still haven't.
they still haven't.
found the guy, right?
Yeah, on a campus like that,
They say there's not enough cameras.
right? Yeah, that's the thing. I know you.
I don't believe that.
Besides the bathroom and most schools now, you're always on camera. It's why they were able to get to the shooter in Utah so fast, and because they had cameras everywhere. But apparently, there's not enough cameras at Brown University to have been able to caught this person that killed the two individuals. It's sad. To your point at the beginning, though, we have so much to be thankful for. This stuff is going on in our society, and we watch it play out. We pray that it doesn't affect us and our children and our wives and our families, family members, and
It largely doesn't.
I
I mean, the mass immigration, eventually it is coming for all of us if we don't stop it. But largely, in the here and now, I mean, I affectionately refer to the South in general as the Shire, but specifically my home state of Arkansas is a great place to live, and a lot of this stuff hasn't reached our shores yet. I mean, it could.
Yeah.
And it is going to if the deportations aren't successful, that's for sure. But I don't know, man. I just see all this stuff. I'll be honest with you. Like the other parts of this are, and I know Erica Kirk is meeting with Candace Owens. That's a whole nother thing. We can get to that here in a minute.
Yeah,
But
let's do that.
anytime a mass casualty event happens, there's always, and I think this is a perfectly reasonable place to be, there's always the gut reaction that, hey, was this somehow planned? Was it orchestrated more than what we're being told? Who benefits from this? Whether it's Brown University, whether it's what's going on in Sydney, and so there's always going to be people on the interwebs that are speculating, trying to poke holes in the official narrative and everything else, and that's fine. And I'm people do what they want to do. I just got to the point over the weekend where I've just had enough of it. Not in terms of that stuff isn't true or not true or what. I'm just exhausted with trying to get to the truth of what I'm seeing with my own eyes. I'm exhausted by it. I am to the point where I am so skeptical about every narrative that we're presented, and I think many of you are the same way. And that's what got me to the point where I'm like, it's Christmas time. I am so sick of this. I'm sick of having to, and people say, well, then why are you even doing a show? To your point, I was asking myself that exact same question over the weekend. Like, well, what's the point of all this? And I am just done for the year, I guess. Like, I just want to talk about things that are positive. I know we just spent a bunch of time talking about things that are negative, but I just think we should actively protest and reject this stuff. There's so much that we're being fed by, people on the right, people on the left, Fox News, everything. And I just think it's all so much of it is just meaningless, and it's a giant distraction from things that we can actually control, like your own personal sanctification, your own personal relationship with the Lord, and your family and everything else. I guess I don't know, man. I'm just trying to shift my perspective on some of this stuff.
Well, kudos to you for doing it.
I'm trying anyway.
because
Tomorrow
in a
I may
lot-
be a big black pill. I may be talking about all kinds of stuff. I mean, totally contradict myself tomorrow. I'm at doom scroll, and then I'm just like, oh no, I'm a total hypocrite tomorrow potentially. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll go back to the fact that if Trump had not won the election, I think we would be even a worse condition than we are today.
I agree.
And that while we still have lots of problems going on, and we have plenty of situations where we're steps forward and then steps back, little things like that, I think we're in a lot better position as a country, and there's hope. There's a lot more hope than there was if Biden, Kamala administration or whatever would have continued for another 4 years. It would have potentially become irreparable. And I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not saying that I know what the future held with that, but it was getting so bad that you just don't know how much more our culture could have taken. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm an optimist, so I see a lot of good things happening. I think we need to do more for our farmers. I think we need to do more as it relates to reverse migration. I think we need to do a lot of more of very important things next year. But I think we can celebrate a starting point, or maybe a foundation this year of Trump 2.0, Trump administration 2.0, which was stark contrast to the first administration, where, a dumpster fire of a cabinet and lots of adjustments that he was making. Like, he's coming into this administration and this year with fully loaded, fully ready to go to implement his strategy. Now, will the politicians and will Congress allow him to?
The answer is no.
Yeah.
The answer is no. And even some of his picks, right? Some of his cabinet picks are not doing it either.
We will.
know that.
We'll have to see how things go next
So
year.
you're
for the
pulling me
midterm.
back into the negativity. You're just pulling me. I can't. We've
got to try to stay in the middle.
There you go. Here's the optimist
The
again.
pendulum is swinging back and forth, and so I cannot allow everything he says online or every politician that makes a bad vote get me swinging to one side or the other. Or just maybe I'm going to circle back to George H.W. Bush's stay the course.
Okay.
Wait,
I'm not.
or is it George? Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
The only thing I know about H.W. Bush is his 1,000 points of light speech.
And that's because it became
Which is
became
really
an
weird.
SNL sketch
okay.
for Dana Carvey.
Oh, okay.
Remember?
Dana Carvey. Yes.
What did I just say?
Carey.
Dana Carvey. I'm thinking of Jim Carrey from The Grinch.
Okay.
Because my kids love watching The Grinch this
Christmas
time of
movie,
year.
yeah.
Yeah. We go back and forth between the three different ones. Do you have a favorite?
So when you say three different ones, there's the original cartoon.
Original cartoon, Jim Carrey, Ron Howard version, live version.
Okay.
And then the newest Benedict Cumberbatch cartoon version. Don't tell me.
Haven't seen the Benedict Cumberbatch. Haven't seen that, but I've seen the other two.
Okay.
And I would say of those two, I think Jim Carrey does a good performance and all, but like if I just want to, I'm definitely going to watch every December the original cartoon for sure. Not necessarily gonna have an itch to watch Jim Carrey, but it is very well done. I'll give you that.
There's plenty of other great Christmas movies
Like
this time
which
of year.
one? Which one? What's your all-time favorite
All-time favorite?
Christmas movie?
Okay, so this is I'm gonna tattle on us a little bit as it relates to the fall season coming out of Halloween, and say that we would be very persecuted for our opinion that when you put up the Halloween decorations, we go straight to Christmas decorations. We don't have that time in between where we have pumpkins and leaves and orange everywhere in our house. November 1st, brother, we're watching Home Alone Part 1.
Really?
I know.
I can respect that.
I've got pictures to prove it too, and I know that's controversial, but yeah, Home Alone.
Well, they say
Home Alone comes on, and then when the kids go to bed, Mommy and Daddy watch Die Hard.
Okay. Well, they say it's the most wonderful time of the year for a reason.
Yeah, I need that shirt. I need that shirt that says, it's not Christmas season until Hans goes off and knocks the Tommy Tower.
Okay, so November, you guys are putting the decorations out and you're watching the movies.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm a firm believer that the original The Santa Claus, with Dudley Moore and John Lithgow as the villain, that's the best Santa Claus. I forget what that gentleman's name was that played that role or that character.
I'll find out.
But it's my favorite version of Santa Claus. Oh, there.
So we're talking about the 1984.
Yes.
The 1984 one, right? That's when I was born. What year were you born? No, 85. I was born in 84. So I was 1 year old. The Santa Claus. Yeah, I mean, I remember this one. I grew up watching this one. We're wanting to know who played Santa. Is that right?
There he is right there.
Not Dudley Moore. That's Patch.
David Huddleston.
Huddleston. Okay.
He's in a lot of stuff back in that era in the 60s and 70s.
Okay. Yeah.
His voice was just so good.
Yeah. That is I can't remember the plot exactly. It's more centered around the elf, right?
Well, this is the story of he becomes Santa Claus. They rescue him, and he and Mrs. Claus become Santa Claus.
Okay.
And for many, 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 many years, in fact, centuries, he is the role of Santa Claus. And then at some point, Patch, his number one elf, who is his assistant, screws things up as far as the toys go. Because he tries to go full automation and assembly lines.
Like Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, and so then the toys kind of become junk for a while and start messing up.
Boy, is that not prophetic.
And they get recalled. So Dooley, the elf, and Santa Claus are sitting there in January, and all of a sudden down the fireplace comes a bunch of recall toys, remember? So Patch loses his job as the assistant, leaves, and then goes to America, to New York, and starts to basically do something to impress Santa, which is to make these lollipops. The lollipops make people fly because they have the same stuff in them that makes the reindeer fly, the magic. It's a cool story. I'm sorry. I'm
drugging the kids with pixie dust.
That was
no
synopsis dump right there. I'm sorry.
No, that's good though.
My 6-year-old
daughter
loves it.
So that is your all-time. So is that your all-time Santa movie or all-time Christmas movie?
He's my all-time favorite as far as who plays Santa in the movies. But I don't know necessarily that that's my all-time favorite Christmas movie. I think I've got to go with Home Alone.
Really? Home Alone?
Yeah.
The number uno?
Yeah, I was 9 or 10 when that came out. It was at the theater forever, and it was number one movie forever. Yeah, I've probably watched that more times than any.
One.
My mom would say It's a Wonderful Life would be hers.
Oh, my gosh. Don't get me started on It's a Wonderful Life, man. Don't get me started on it.
What do you mean? Let's peel the onion.
I am a huge fan.
Oh, good.
I am such a huge fan of It's a Wonderful Life. And I didn't realize how great the movie was until, I'm ashamed to admit, last year. I've already watched It's a Wonderful Life 3 times this month. I watched it a bunch last Christmas, and I don't know why. I guess growing up, I just never. When I grew up, we were kind of I guess we didn't really watch It's a Wonderful Life growing up. We just didn't. We watched George C. Scott's A Christmas Carol.
Okay.
Specifically, that's my favorite.
He was a good Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think that was like a made-for-TV movie. It wasn't actually ever released in theaters. That's why it's kind of an anomaly or whatever. But I recently found It's a Wonderful Life, and I love how distinctly spiritual it is.
Yeah.
And I've been reading up on articles like contrasting Frank Capra, who was the director, Jimmy Stewart, who was a son of a Presbyterian minister, And it's his best. It's just his best performance. When he gets angry, you really can tell that he's angry. When he's repentant, you really can tell that he's repentant. And the whole thing starts out. It's a Wonderful Life. Starts out, in the heavens, and it's about, hey, God has a plan for your life, and you're going to touch all these people. And if you hadn't been born, a lot of people's lives are way worse because of that.
Yeah.
And Potter wins, and it's just a great story, and it's also it's really like basic economic populism as well. The building and loan,
the Bailey.
That doesn't those don't exist anymore, right? But they used to, but they've all been run out of business. But the idea that you had a local guy who had a heart for people with souls, he knew that these were human beings that deserved, as he says, to don't you think how long it takes a man to save up $5,000? Don't you think we could do that over time, and they could have a warm home and a bath? We're not talking about luxury mansions here. Back then, you're just talking about a one bathroom house for a guy to raise a family in who's a blue collar worker. So the economic populist message really resonates with me. And I also think too, comparing it to other Christmas movies that I used to really love, for example, White Christmas. I used to watch White Christmas as a kid, and I know you can sing. I can sing as well. I took vocal lessons when I was, I took vocal lessons for 8 years when I was growing up, and I would go watch White Christmas, and I'd be like, dude, I was born in the wrong era. I could have been a millionaire. I could have been a millionaire, Jerry. Because that the type of show tunes, they were popular. They're not popular anymore, But I go back and I'd watch that. But that's not. It's a Christmas movie, but it's really just about snow. They made a Christmas movie about snow, and then you start doing some research. Irving Berlin, who wasn't a Christian, he was a Jewish guy. He directed that movie. You go back and you look at the songs that were written. And you've got your traditional songs, right, that are about the birth of Jesus Christ. And then you've got Winter Wonderland. Then you've got these other songs that just make it about winter, or snow or something other than what it's about. And so I think that's been an interesting transition, into our modern day culture. Just at least being aware of it, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I don't like a Santa Claus movie. That doesn't mean that I don't like, White Christmas or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's cool when General Waverly gets, his recognition or whatever. That's a cool scene. I like it. But just to kind of be aware of what's come before us. And It's a Wonderful Life is the best Christmas movie, hands down, 100%. And not only is it the best from a message standpoint, it's just so nicely done. Mm-hmm. The acting is superior, but the writing is superior. The dialogue scene between George Bailey and Mary on the way home from the dance. People don't talk like that anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
They don't write stuff like that. There's substance. You actually have to pay attention to what they're saying, and there's so much depth in what they're saying. And then they even get to a point where, there's that point where he steps on her robe and then she's in the bush, and it's like, okay, that's kind of risque, but the way it was done isn't risque at all. It's somehow still classy. So you can talk about adult topics and reference adult things, but everything is above board. Nothing is crude. Yeah. Nothing is vulgar. It's a sweet movie. And
I personally, and I've seen the movie 1,000 times, but I still, I'm going to tell on myself here, but I cannot get through the end there when all those folks line up and come into their home. When Mary comes in and tells them what's about to happen, and then it happens, I cry every time.
Yeah.
They pour out all that money on there, and his brother comes in, and all those wonderful people just line up, and even the ones that treated him bad are there, and they tear up the arrest letter, and I'd lose it every time, because it's to your point of it really is a wonderful life, and without you, you know, how much different it could be. And you get enough of a glimpse of that, it's not this tiny little glimpse. It's a full glimpse of how him not being there had this ripple effect that affected so many people. And I'm glad you said that about that movie, because it's
really good.
It's
and that's I guess
special.
to your point about the emotion behind it. That's when I realized what a great movie it was last year when I really was like, okay, let me just sit down and actually digest what this movie's about. And by the end, I was a blubbering mess of a 40-year-old man. You know,
Mr. Gower comes in there at
Mr.
the
Gower
end.
coming in and clutch.
It's just like I just fell apart.
Yep.
You know,
That
It's
was
just-
awesome.
It's just absolutely awesome.
And then so they raised the money, right? They try to find is it
Five-
$5,000
or eight? Was it
$8,000?
8,000? Yeah.
And then
Because his life insurance policy is only worth 5,000.
right.
Then
And
the,
then-
the,
and then you get
stupid
the-
uncle lost the 8,000.
yeah, and then you get the call from Sam Wainwright that just like, here's 10 grand, buddy.
Yeah.
Brings it over the top, and you're just like, you know, you get to these moments,
Yeah.
and you're like, and I think, you know, a lot of different people have been in moments like this where you think God can't do something, right?
Yeah.
And then when it happens, it's like even better.
Yeah.
And you realize like it's not difficult for God to walk a tightrope. It's
Yeah.
difficult for you and me to walk a tightrope, but it's not a problem
Yeah.
for him.
That movie gave me
so-
a chance to teach to talk to my children too the first time they watched it, you know, just recently over the last couple of years so that they would understand it a little bit better. And a way to talk about a very, very difficult topic and to, you know,
You mean like
the
suicide?
suicide word.
Yeah.
What's he really doing on that bridge, Daddy? Well, he was ready to call it quits. And now you're about to see what it would have been like if if that sweet angel had have let it happen and not jumped in first.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it truly is an iconic movie and a wonderful, wonderful piece of movie history during this time of year. So,
Yep.
there's just a ton of great Christmas movies. I mean, my gosh, we could go down a long list.
Okay, but let's talk about A Christmas Carol. Do you have a favorite?
Well, so let's talk about the Jim Carrey version, animated version of it as well that scared the crud out of my kids.
Really?
I've
never seen that one.
It's yeah, you need to. It's pretty freaky, but it's that weird animated version to where like it's Jim Carrey, but it's not really him live. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway.
So that's your favorite though?
No. I would say Scrooged with Bill Murray.
Bill
It's not-
Murray. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. You got. I mean, you know, that's definitely a unique one. You know, there's no question that's a unique one.
The Patrick Stewart version is a really good one.
Yeah,
in my opinion
and
as well.
I'm
'Cause
a big Patrick Stewart fan.
My dad was a big Trekkie.
Yeah, me too.
Growing up, and so the Next Generation was not his favorite. Obviously, he
Right.
was the original Spock and Jim.
I thought as much as I like Patrick Stewart, anybody who knows me knows that I do. I wasn't a huge fan of his Christmas Carol. That's just because I think George C. Scott's is so superior. But if you want
Yeah.
the Muppet Christmas Carol one, where what's his name? Now I can't remember the actor's name. The butler from the Batman movies.
the guy who plays Alfred. Or yeah,
in the Nolan Batmans. Why can't I remember his name?
Michael Caine.
Yeah, Kane.
There it is.
He plays that like he is trying to win an Academy Award. He is surrounded by Muppets, by puppets, and he plays that Scrooge like he.
I gotta go watch that one again.
It's really funny how serious he plays it. Like he's like, no, I'm getting.
I'm
an
trying to
Academy
remember
Award.
what's next on our list at home, because now with streaming services, it's like you can tell they've fought during the October time of like who's going to get what. So Hulu has some, Peacock has some, Netflix has some, whatever. I'm a huge fan of Amazon Prime, whatever. But yeah, I know we've gone through all the Santa Clauses with Tim Allen, all the Home Alones, including 4 and 5, which are just abysmal. Did you like the new one that just came out 2 years ago?
No, there are only 2 Home Alone movies.
Thank you.
Only 2.
The third one was okay though, right? Didn't you think?
It's been a long time.
The chicken pox and
Since I watched that.
the microchip or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you not remember that one?
I don't remember it. Like I said, I've seen
Well.
it maybe once, and I was not a fan, so I blocked it out of my memory.
Macaulay Culkin is apparently coming back to reprise his role as the dad. Have you
heard
seen
that.
some of the stuff about that?
Yeah, I heard
How do you
something
feel
about
about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'll tell you how I really feel
Because
about
Buzz
it.
was in the last one. You know,
Okay.
Buzz was a security guard.
Right.
Or a cop in the last one.
I'll tell you how I feel about it. And I'm fine. I guess it's an original IP, so it is what it is. But
Yeah.
wisdom, I think wisdom general. I think you can generally say that wisdom has left our country, our land. We desperately need wisdom to come back. And I think when that happens, you also lose a lot of creativity. And even though like there were people in Hollywood in our years, growing up, formative years, that were not particularly Christian. And you could say that they were actually, in a lot of ways, pushing the envelope, getting things to go further and further, to be non-Christian, to eventually be hostile Christian. Aaron Wrenn talks about positive Christian world, neutral Christian world, negative Christian world. Used to be a positive thing if you told people you were Christian. Then there was a time where people were just neutral if you told people are Christian, And then now if you tell people are Christian, it's a negative thing. Of course, that, I think, pendulum is swinging back the other way as well, thank the Lord. But I think, and I know this sounds weird, but when you have, ancestors that come before you that make good decisions, that raise good families, that create happy societies, happy civilization, the creativity there, whether you are in a total agreement with what the society's founded on or not, is a derivative good that makes that kind of rises, a rising tide raises all ships. I think that's the way it goes with creativity. Yeah. And I think as we have become more and more debased, spiritually speaking, there's just not enough creativity, and there's also not enough honesty, and so people are having to recycle. People are just constantly like we looked at the theater the other day. I mean, everything is just sequels. It's everything, and it's not honest. And I'll say this. So our tradition in our family is in the month of December, and only in the month of December, although we're about to make an exception to this rule, we watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Those 3 movies, which I consider to be the zenith of filmmaking. And obviously I know those are not Christmas movies, but they are to us because when I was in high school, the first one was released, and I was in college, the second was released all in the month of December. So December became, when the second one was released in theaters, all your friends watched the first one that was on video, then you went to the theaters. Then the third year, you watched the first 2 in your house, and then you went to see the third. And so for 3 years in a row, I had only watched Lord of the Rings in December. And so then I met my wife, and I was like, hey, it's December, I want to watch Lord of the Rings. And so now this tradition has continued throughout my family. This is kind of what we do. I was thinking about the other day how the Lord of the Rings trilogy with Peter Jackson was the zenith of filmmaking, and I don't ever think we'll get it back. I really don't. I mean, we can pray that we'll have better stuff. That they were honest though. They didn't put their message in it. They took a piece of art. They took a work from J.R.R. Tolkien, and they accurately adapted, for the most part. I mean, left some stuff out they should have, whatever. But they accurately adapted his message. They didn't try to put it through their woke, because woke wasn't a thing in the early 2000s the way it is now.
Right.
And so there's this lack of honesty with the people that make our entertainment now, where they are unable to not put this goes back to our politics and our theology and where they meet. They're not able to put their theology or their politics or whatever into what they're working on. They're just not able to separate the two.
No.
Whereas you used to have people that might not have necessarily agreed with Tolkien's Christian faith or Christian story, or the allegory that's clearly there, but they were actors trained in a world where honesty, it's like we want to honestly respect the art that this person has done, so we're going to honestly try to do our best. That's all gone now. Yeah. Sorry.
Well,
I sorry to digress.
No, at least this time of year too, we can simplify things, and we can say that, we can sit down with our kids and watch a Christmas movie like The Christmas Story too, and we can help them understand that Scott Fargus is bad, Grover Dill is bad, Triple Dog Dares means something, and there's so much amazingly positive simplicity in movies like that this time of year, like The Christmas Story and Santa Claus and Home Alone, that just bring us back to a time where things were a lot less complicated.
Yeah, for sure. for sure.
Let's do more movie talk.
Dude, I
as
would
we
love
go
to.
through.
I apologize
We need to do
for
80s,
yeah.
90s. We need to do a
That would
whole
be good.
run
We could do it.
Of,
And look, and maybe we'll see what the show. Rob is probably going to be back on tomorrow.
Oh, perfect.
And he's going to bring us back to reality. I think he's going to bring us back. It'll be great. But I am serious though. From here till Christmas, I am just hypersensitive to. I think, again, what Alex Stein coined as trauma-based mind control when it comes to going in the news. What bad thing happened? What bad thing happened? And that's kind of the nature of this business. I get it.
Yeah.
But, man, it's Christmas time, and right now you turn on the TV, and all you hear about is death. All you hear about is just evil and terrible things. So enjoy the time with your family. Spend some time with your family. Get ready.
Laugh at the kid with the bunny suit on.
That's right, and just also in every sphere of your influence, spread some joy to somebody. Do that.
Amen to that.
Anyway, Eric Haynes, it's always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Pleasure's mine.
That's all the time we have, folks.